I think we're on. Cosmic blessings and greetings, beloved lovers of life, love, light, and liberation. Here with another episode of the TOTAMS Seed People Spotlight. My name is Naraya, and this series serves to introduce you to some of the incredible people who make up the heart and soul of this mystery school. And I have the absolute, as always, the absolute pleasure and honor to be here today with one of our, I would say, the school's most prolific content creators and contributors in so many other ways, Silvianne K. Delmars. Silvianne is not only a long-time certified, fully certified, initiated astrologer in this paradigm. She's also a council member of our school. And you will see her face on many of our calls. She's part of the Inanna group team, which is closing tomorrow. So if you see this and want to sign up for the Ascending Journey last minute, do so now. It's all up on our website. And she's also doing the monthly members calls with Daniel together, and that is absolutely delightful. And you can, if you're not yet a member, you can check out the membership options, so you can access these monthly membership calls for free. But now, no more advertisements. That's more than enough already. You can always find everything you need on our website. So I want to really, really welcome Silvianne. Silvianne, it's so lovely to have you here. I know that we can privately and personally chat for many hours, and it never stops. So the floor is yours. Would you just like to introduce yourself to our viewers here, to our audience, and then take it away?
Okay, thank you, Naraya. It's a pleasure. I'm honored to be here. And thank you so much for doing this and all the work that you do for the school. I've been thinking a lot lately about just being more present and thanking people. You know, just I think it's hard for us to give and receive compliments in this culture. So I think that needs to be remedied. And yes, we know we both have Gemini and Aries in our chart, so we could go on forever. And since we have Pisces, it'd be very heartfelt. My name is Silvianne. I discovered the school in Daniel in 2003 and became certified, I believe, in 2006. And I've been studying it and growing into it. And I was in my 40s when I discovered the school, and I was thinking about it this morning. And I led, on the outside at least, a fairly conventional life. Up until about 1997, when I went to a spirituality-based graduate school, and my whole life opened up, and I realized some inkling of who I really was, as opposed to somebody else's life that I've been living. And that led me to, be completely unfitted for anything I was doing and not really knowing what I wanted to do going forward. And then I got activated on astrology, and I was looking on the internet in my Gemini way and gathering all this information. And one day I came across this website with this photo of these people drumming at sunset. And I said, those are my people. And I contacted the school, and a couple of weeks later, I was at my first in-person event. We were teaching, this is before the internet. We were not teaching on the internet back in 2003. So all the classes were in person. And the first 3 days in, I said, this is what I want to do with my life. And my joke was, I've been waiting my whole life for God to tell me what I was supposed to do when I grow up. So for a couple of years, every time I'd see Daniel, I would go up to him and say, thank you for totally messing up my life. Because I went back and said, I've been separated from my husband. We were trying to sell the house and refinance it. We owned it with another person. We couldn't get the money. It was, and I just went back and said, we got to make this happen. I'm moving to New Mexico, where I've wanted to go for 20 years, and becoming a shamanic astrologer. So
wow, that's incredible, and nicely, succinctly summarizing your story. But tell us where you are right now.
Right now, I am in beautiful Western North Carolina, in the I didn't learn until I moved here 2 years ago that it is one of the 2 temperate rainforests in the continental United States, the other, of course, being in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm actually living in a rainforest. It's just, you know, I love the desert. I spent 20 years in New Mexico, but the forest has always been my soul place. So
Beautiful.
I'm really grateful to be here. But I am at the end of the month. We are. I've been sharing a house with a friend that I met years ago in New Mexico, and we're both doing spiritual work. Um, I'm going on the road. I'm going back to my nomad existence, which I did for most of 7 years between 2013 and 2020. The whole 2020 event sort of, I felt like traveling around in a 30-year-old van probably wasn't the best idea. But now I'm being called back to it through the advice partly of a couple of wise astrology friends, yourself included. Been going through a Neptune transit, pretty pretty central process, and I thought, well, this may not be forever, but why not for now just really um, surrender to that not knowing what the next steps are. So that's what I'm doing. I'm really looking forward to it. Um, and I'll be able to spend the winter out in the West, where the night skies are just out in the middle of the desert. You know, there's no lights around, and it's just amazing. It's life changing. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. You know, I'm currently in the UK, south of England, not far from Glastonbury, actually. And it's rare to see a night sky here. Mostly it's sprayed shut, and that is that. And the other night it was clear, and so I could see this absolutely incredible alignment of the moon, and that triangle of Mars, Jupiter with Aldebaran in the Bull constellation, and it's highly relevant for me personally as well. So I was just standing at the window, which was the open window, which was the best place to view it from, the first floor of the house I'm in at the moment. And I was just sobbing away because they spoke so clearly and so distinctly to me that I could not receive those messages. And that is one of the beautiful things in this school. I think always that it encourages, not only encourages, but sometimes requires that direct connection with the night sky, and not just treat astrology as a chart on a piece of paper or on a screen these days. Affair. So yeah, no, I totally resonate with that. That's wonderful. And so yeah, you shared a little bit of how you found your way to TOTAMS. And what I liked about that is when you said, for many years you said to Daniel, thank you for messing up my life. But when you are, which is great, when you are reversing that into something positive, as in, how has this actually most impacted you in your life? What would you share about that?
Wow, I was thinking about that question. There's so many answers to it. I mean, I think any astrologer in any paradigm, not just this one, knows that, you know, I've been studying this for over 20 years now, and my own chart is the most mysterious to me in a way. It's the closest, and I have the most information about it, and I'm the most clueless because, of course, it's hard to get the objectivity. But it's a continuing process of unfolding, right? But I remember just viscerally I first discovered it, and I ordered the handbook in the mail. So it was coming in the mail, and I was in one of the most stressful weeks of my life. We were putting a new computer system in I went back to work for the graduate school I graduated from, and I was one of like 2 people that understood the old one. So, and I was doing a brochure for a friend of mine who leads spiritual tours in Ireland, and trying to get that done. And I mean, and so I come home really late at night, like 11 at night, and this package is on the doorstep. And I said, do not open that package. Do not open that package. Do not open that package. You know, the Gemini, right? But of course I had to open the package, and I was up until, I don't know, 2 in the morning. But the most transformative thing about it, that maybe to this day I'm still parsing out the deeper meanings of is it gave me, not only did it give me a language for this conflict I'd had in multiple conflicts, really multi-layered conflict my whole life, between my, my Aries mission moon and then my Pisces Venus that I'm going into in this lifetime, to be the intuitive and then my Leo rising, like literally in some unconscious way, every time the Leo wanted to do something, the Pisces said, but how is that saving the world?
Oh,
It's not enough,
oh.
really. And so not only did this give me a language for that, I could see it graphically, it gave me a direction. It's telling me that yes, I'm learning the Pisces and unfolding it, and it's in the service of Leo, of radiant radical self-love. That is how I serve partly, is by putting myself out there in the world, but from that deeper place, because it really is about service, really underneath it all. So, and I was just so thrilled to finally have something in life that felt like that. I mean, my whole life, I became a secretary at 19 because I didn't know what else to do. And I became a more and more glorified secretary as time went on in my career, when I was an admin assistant and getting paid at a management level by the time I left corporate healthcare and human resources development and training. But it had nothing to do with who I was, very little, very little. So and I'm still continuing in that journey of owning the Leo rising. So
Beautiful. What I just picked up and really love about what you were just saying is it is all about being in service. And what I really love about this as well is that it gives one, by the blueprint and the interpretation specific to this paradigm of the chart, at least it gave me a clearer picture of what I am actually in service to. I mean, ultimately, it's of course in service to the super higher whatever picture and force that is activating and even creating everything in existence. But it gave me a clearer picture of, as this paradigm was kind of reframing and rephrasing the three different modalities as in service to self, not to be mistaken as being selfish, but as self-exploration. And some of the archetypes are of that in that category, in service to others and or culture, and in service to spirit. And so I find that really helped for me to refine how I make decisions, because it just helps so much. And so I love that you said it's all about service, and it helps people to understand what or who the different aspects of oneself are actually in service to, and how to integrate that with each other, I find. And so also from what you said, that's how it benefited you, or how you felt it was most impactful for you. But how do you see it also possibly impacting the life of others? How do you see this most useful for others' lives? Or also from your long-standing astrological practice, you can speak from that experience as well, not just as a possibility or an hypothesis.
yeah, in some ways I live and breathe it. Everybody who knows me, even if they're not an astrologer, just people that are in my life, they all start talking in astrological language, because everything to me is metaphor. I always say my religion is metaphor, if I had a religion. But so sometimes when I'm with clients, I'm thinking, what am I really giving them? I mean, it's like, okay, so what? So you describe, but I think that you just can't underestimate the power of affirming what somebody intuits in their soul, but yet no one's given them the language, and also to make our lives more mythological. I just recently did a reading for someone, and she knew something about astrology, and did a smart thing. I'm not always that smart. I started by asking her, what she felt about
Um,
this. I mean, what I mean is
that's
sometimes I can get a little carried away with I have so much to tell someone in a reading, right? There's so much.
I get you.
You can't get all. But I sat and I asked her first, well, how do you feel? Because I knew she knew some astrology. And what I got back from this was so steeped in, even though she was a very, knowledgeable person and very open to the whole humanistic, psychological, the larger meaning of things, there was still so much negativity about this particular position in her chart. And so I said, well, yeah, that's all very interesting, and then I started explaining from this paradigm's point of view, and it was transformative. I mean, she wrote me a few days later and just said it just, and I think that is at the heart of this. I hadn't really studied astrology before I found Daniel in the school. So to me, this all just seems, I just resonated with it. But over the years, of course, I've branched out a little bit. Again, all that Gemini in my chart, I kind of had to. And every time I study outside this paradigm, yeah, I learn wonderful things, but so much of it is so judgmental and so negative and so, and I just love that Daniel has, um, without dumbing things down and without doing any violence to what is at the heart of Western astrology that this is based on largely, um, just really done away with so much of those false categories that really come from 6,000 years of dominator culture. So I love that. And so that's where I really want to bring this to the world, because I think it can inform so much that's out there in the astrological world with just this slight shift. Um, doing away with detriments, falls and exaltations where a planet is. Where your Venus is the perfect place for your Venus to be. It isn't better or worse than anybody else's. It may have some more, visceral challenges than other people's, but that's what your soul signed up for, and it's a gift, so.
Yeah, I love the way you're saying that. All of that is a gift. And I think, or I feel, I obviously have been much, much, way, way shorter with this paradigm than you have been. The way I feel about it is that, yes, there is in the deep, deep unconscious or subconscious, there is a knowing about all these archetypal patterns. There is a knowing about our blueprint, and this paradigm can really help to bring that into the visceral and visible and somewhat understandable realm, and therefore make it much, much, much more conscious. And again, what I really loved you saying was that it's about confirming what someone deep down already knows as who they really are or as their truth. And it really reminds me of a beautiful story or something that's been sticking with me for decades now. I've had a beautiful spiritual teacher in my lifetime who sat for long times with the Indian teacher, Papaji. And when she asked about because she just didn't know now what to do with her own realizations and how to bring that out into the world. And he just looked at her and said, confirm truth. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here. We're confirming a truth that deep, deep, deep down in the ancient knowledge, in the ancestral knowledge, in the cellular knowledge of our bodies and beings, we know it. It just needs to be reaffirmed. It needs to be uncovered. And I feel that's also one of the most precious things or services anyone can offer at this particular, what we call the turning of the ages. And that would be my next question to you as well. How do you see that particularly useful or relevant at this in this time frame that we're in, that we call the Great Turning of the Ages, which is literally the crucible of the transformation, the falling away of what you just named as 6,000 years of dominator culture into whatever comes next, and how we are meant to be assisting in shaping that whatever comes next. So how would you see that specifically embedded into this turning of the ages?
Well, thank you. I had really wanted to talk to you about this because this is most dear to my heart. When you asked what attracted me, I mean, everything I've said is true. But the other part was something that Daniel wasn't necessarily teaching in the classes when I first studied, but is, you know, it's permeated in his worldview. And it's always fascinating. I mean, at that time, I had no language and no context for it. I just knew that something was wrong. I could never, I never liked studying history in school. It didn't, you know, and I was a very good student and loved learning and loved knowledge, lots of planets in the ninth house. But I just knew that what we were being taught wasn't real, you know, but I didn't even know I knew it. It just, and so this is just, it's been this continual rabbit hole of going down, of expanding that, you know, the timeline. And I'm talking in a really large sentence, not just the last 6,000 years, but, you know, Daniel talks about this turning of the ages. This, I tell people all the time, I meet in the street, you know, we can have some conversation and say, you know, we're at the beginning and ending of a 26,000 year cycle, which is the largest cycle that humans can track by looking at the heavens. And now, you know, with information Daniel's gotten in and that resonates with me too, we may be in a 12 times 26,000, which is like,
That's it. Is it 312,000? Is that the
or
number?
320 or 300 or something like that. Yes, but
Something
whatever
over
that math
300.
comes out
Yeah.
to, which, as he always points out, is how far back now they're going in the anthropological record to find that humans with our, you know, similar DNA have been on this planet, right? So to me, that's just, it's transformative. Like everything, all the discussions that are happening, all this bifurcation and the splitting and everything, if you look at it from that lens, we're just, you know, we're just this tiny, what we think of as history and what we think of as who we are as human beings is just has, you know, is just in the darkest place. You know, I just did that last month, that video with Daniel talking about the Yuga Shift book by David Misra. And I remember I was in the desert, it was back in 2000, I don't know what it was, 15 or 16 or something, and Daniel gave a talk on that, and he mentioned the article the man had written because he hadn't written the book yet. And I think I must be the only person. I went and found it online and, you know, read this thing just so when he came out with the book, I was so excited. Just because he, you know, he's Indian, from India. And so it's, you know, so much of what we read in English is so from our Western, you know, American, British, you know, colonizing, if you want that, to use that word, point of view. But, you know, someone from another culture who is an English speaker, but, you know, is weaving all these different cross-cultural, truly cross-cultural threads to say these are not normal times. And,
No,
you know,
I love that. Yeah. I'll definitely put the link to that vlog you did with Daniel in the comments, whatever description box below here, because that was one of my all-time favorite vlogs that I have watched. I think I've watched them pretty much all by now. There's some ancient backlog that I still have to catch up with. But that one, I really loved it. And also, I haven't read the book, but, you know, for anyone who doesn't have the time or patience or whatever to read so many books, then that is a very, very good, succinct summary and how it all really ties in. So, yeah, definitely recommend that.
And the other thing, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned just before that question, and to me it ties in about, you know, we're not really telling people anything they didn't know. We're just affirming their soul knowing. And, you know, when I was in graduate school, I was exposed to Joanna Macy's and oh, now I forget, Anita Barrow's translation of Rilke's Book of Hours. And there's one favorite poem I have. And there's a line from it that's at the bottom of all my emails. It's my, that signature quote we all like to put at the bottom of our emails. And it's written as if it's a letter to a young monk, this contemplative. And he said, "Now pray as I, who came back from the same confusion, learned to pray. I return to paint upon the altar those old holy forms, but they shone differently, fierce in their beauty." I was a tarot reader before I was an astrologer, and I would find myself telling people, all the time, like, it's not a matter of learning anything new. And this was 20 years ago, right? And I think it's even more true now. It's just a matter of getting out of your own way so that you remember, that we remember the ancient knowledge. We truly are these galactic beings having this incarnate experience. And I think that's why there's so many of us on the planet, is this many people beings had to show up to help in the shift that's coming. So
Oh, absolutely. There are many, including myself, who have gotten these messages. And, I actually remember being in the spiritual form in the universe and the call coming out. Literally, it's starting. And that must have been 1962. I took a little while then I also remember how reluctant I was to incarnate, because I knew it would be incredibly hard, and I didn't want the physical body experience. I found it very slow, very messy, so vulnerable. The physical body can be smashed and crushed and in a short moment, any moment. So very, very Pluto, everything can just be combusted and annihilated, and there is no guarantee that the next moment actually will happen, until it happens. And so, no, I was so reluctant to make it, but I do remember the call going out. It's starting. So anyone who wanted to go in, and I think some might have heard it way before I heard it, but that must have been 1962 when the actual time frame of the turning of the ages began. And I was then born in 64. So, it took a while to look around, shop around for circumstances that would be conducive for me. And I also took a while to get the actual healing in and the encouragement that I needed to actually make that step to go into the physical form on this planet as a woman at this time, which in the spirit world, it is said that those who are here, especially as women, especially of our generation, but in general, are the strongest of the strong, because only the strongest of the strong got a ticket. And I mean, we're now 8 billion people, or almost 8 billion people on the planet. I haven't checked in a while, but every one of those has a particular purpose and reason for being here, and have chosen and have gotten that ticket, no matter what it looks like, no matter what the circumstances look like of any particular person. So it is quite a big thing, much bigger than when we're here embodied in this 3D reality, can mostly even realize or recognize. And also the support we have from the spirit world, it's just massive. And the applause we all get, even if we feel on our crappiest day, whoever they are still applauding, saying, no, you're doing just great, just for going there, just for being there. It's amazing. It's really amazing. So yeah, that's a big deal. And so, Silvianne, is there anything that you are currently up to in the near future, or not so near future, in the school? I mean, I wouldn't even know how you could possibly increase your input or impact there, but maybe there is such a thing. Or, I have the immense honor and pleasure to work with the content that you're creating, so many articles. And the next upcoming newsletter, if anyone is not yet subscribed, it will be very much Silvianne. So watch out for that. including this episode we're putting in there, but also 2 wonderful articles by Silvianne. She does a weekly lunation update. So every week you get what's going on in the current lunation. And this is just absolutely incredible. So is there anything else that you're up to?
There's kind of 2 major things that are going on right now. I feel very frustrated because a couple months ago I got this download. I have this long-standing relationship with the Virgin of Guadalupe that came long before I found astrology, long before, decades ago. And no, I'm not Catholic, or my joke is, at least not in this lifetime. When I was living in New Mexico and I kept buying these paintings of, these embodied Virgin of Guadalupe, people would come in the house, "Are you Catholic?" I'm like, "No." But I believe that there's this whole activation happening right now with, we do a lot of work with the synodic cycles that Daniel really pioneered back in, and with the synodic cycle of Venus. And this current synodic cycle is coming to an end next spring, and the next one will be starting, and they start in different seasons. And the ancients, that's what Daniel often points out, that the ancients didn't celebrate it every 19 months. They celebrated it at the end of the whole cycle after the 5 came together, 5 different Venus cycles in different seasons. Then they came together at 8 years, and it's one of the beautiful synchronicities of her orbit that lines up. So they would only celebrate that, Venus return every 8 years, and the one that was around the spring equinox, or the Aries equinox, we should say. So this one that's coming up is that one that will start in March when this current Leo over story is finished. But they spend about 104 years starting in one sign every 8 years, and then they precess back through that pentacle in the sky that Venus makes. And this is the marker of that shift, and that 104, that it's shifting backwards from Aries. It has been the Aries one that starts in the spring to the Pisces, to that, last degrees of Pisces, which is so activated right now. But I believe when I started looking into it, I don't know what, these rabbit holes, I don't know. I think that's the get out of free card, jail free card I got from the universe before I came into this incarnation. I said, I want to be able to follow my intuition, even when I seem to feel like I don't have any, and I'm just this mind-centered person. I know where to follow it, even though I don't even know I'm doing it. But I think there's a larger cycle that then falls into. And I discovered it because I was thought, well, the Virgin of Guadalupe made her appearance in 1531 in Mexico City. I wonder what her natal Venus cycle is. So then, of course, you can't just look that up online. So then I had to go, I'm doing all this calculations to figure out. And it's like she was born in that Venus overtone cycle. And she was born right after this first one, the second one after it shifted. So I believe this is another marker of the turning of the ages, that we're having that precessional shift in the, it's giving me chills. And I want to write about this so that other people can know this, because it's coming up. It's dated, for heaven's sakes. But me, once I started, I can't just write. It doesn't feel like it's just an article to me. It feels like it's a whole presentation that goes into what does the Virgin of Guadalupe represent? She is not, there's a shaman that Daniel used to work with, Jade Gregorio, and he says that she's not Mary. She's not Mary. And I always kind of knew that intuitively. She's not the mother. I mean, she is the mother of God in a larger sense, but she's pregnant with a new creation. It's a pregnant image. So I really believe it's just the birthing. If you think of what was happening back there in the New World at the time, it was devastated. The old culture that had not been honored was they tried to wipe it out. And she came to represent both, to say there's all this encoded in her image that the native religion would understand that she was a visitation. And they converted in mass after that. And they hadn't been able to convert them, killed them, burned them, destroyed them, and they would not convert. And then all of a sudden there was this mass conversion because they saw that she was their ancient goddess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And at first the church tried to suppress it, of course, because they couldn't control it. And then when they realized they couldn't suppress it, they keep trying to co-opt her, that, and she's not as important as God. And she's, but the Mexicans, God bless them, they just haven't succumbed to that. But I believe that she's not just a Mexican goddess. She is universal, and especially for the New World. So, okay, sorry, I went on a little bit there, but that's my current obsession.
No, I don't think there's anything to be sorry for there. I'm quite stunned and speechless. I don't even know what to say about this other than it seems you're really on to something there that could, again, really be a huge piece of the puzzle that is presenting itself at this point, and also like an add-on to the Venus synodic cycle research and teachings that have been in the school for quite a long while. And it sounds absolutely incredible. I can only really pray and encourage you that you keep on that track and somehow make that presentation, whatever it will look like in the end. It also would tie in so beautifully with, the final crown jewel course of the school, course 5, about the synodic cycles, and the overstory will hopefully be redone, revised, refilmed in the remainder of this year. And so if you were to do this research at that same time, and it would kind of coincide to be released or launched or whatever we want to call it, that, I mean, it just sounds absolutely amazing. Really absolutely amazing. But you said there were 2 things. What's the other one? I love it.
Okay. Well, I've talked to you a little bit about this, so but I'm going to come out of the closet here. I've been studying galactic astrology, and it was just something 2 years ago that seized me. I had the North Node, in Uranus transiting my midheaven in Taurus. So, and then like now, it's an echo of this time, because I was supposed to be moving from Arkansas to here. I had a month to move, and all I was doing was obsessively doing everybody's chart I could possibly know. So it's and at first it just felt like they're 2 different worlds. I can't even reconcile these. I can't even study them together. It's making me too insane. But yet, when something just grabs you, it's like when shamanic astrology grabbed me all those years ago. I couldn't not do it. And so to me, this is ironic, but I will confess that the cornerstone of this school is the observational astrology, as you say, and I really honored that. But in practice, in truth, that was my weak point. I'm so fascinated by the archetypes and the mythology, and that's where that's just where my interest lies. And so it's always been, when I'm out with Daniel in the night sky, and he's showing me, yeah, it's all great. And then I go back into my life, and but somehow adding on this piece of that relationship with the stars, that I really believe you can have that activation of the stars. And I'm writing about that every week. But then adding on that it also tells us something about the soul history of our ancient soul history. Even beyond that, we look at the moon in shamanic astrology as the lineage, and it, kind of encapsulates that past life, the information that's the setup for this lifetime, which makes perfect sense to me. But in a way, this galactic astrology paradigm goes, it's not in conflict. It's just going beyond, okay, but there's, think of how vast the universe is, and how many lives we must all have lived. Even like you say, maybe some of us, this is the first time in this kind of this dense incarnation, but we had to live a whole bunch of experiences somewhere in the etheric to even be here in this. And so it just adds a dimension. And for me, it's my gateway, and I'm developing more of a relationship with the actual physical night sky, because this overlays there. So my dream, but then it drives me crazy to study the galactic astrology, because it's based on Western astrology. And again, all those prejudices we talked about. So I'm always having to translate it in my mind. So I think there's a new paradigm coming, not a new one, but this is what I came to do. I realized that in my artwork, it's the same thing. I don't create new things. I don't draw or paint. I bring together beautiful pieces, because there's so much beauty in this world that's just, um, just thrown out. They pay thousands of dollars to people to do advertising to make it beautiful so you'll buy it. And then we buy it and then we throw out the packaging. And so I've been making junk journals out of all this. It's like, and I've known this about myself for decades. I'm not here to create something new. I'm here to, return to paint upon the altar those old holy forms, but we're not going backwards. They shone differently with with a fierce beauty. That's
Mm.
the fierce beauty. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. That's absolutely amazing. You are such an in my perspective, in my view and experience, you're such an original thinker. You're not just an accumulator of information and string it all together like some people do, but you gather the information and something new and original comes out of that then can really inspire other people and maybe entire paradigms in the end. So I really love that about you, and I also love the quality of your writing. So anybody who is watching this, you got to read Silvianne's articles. They are just super good. Not only from the quality of writing, but the way the content is being presented. The content itself is always of very high quality. So I think we're kind of coming to the end of our time here together. However, unfortunate that might feel to me. Um, Final question, Silvianne. Is there anything in the astrology, either maybe for you personally or collectively, that you would like to comment on, or that somehow has a particular um, grab on you?
Um, wow, so much, right? I know I sound like a broken record. In my life sometimes it feels like, but these are not normal times we're living in. And that you work, one of the things I loved about it is that really it's affirming what we're all feeling. I think everybody on the planet, no matter how unconscious we may think they are and don't have this paradigm, or this language to talk about it in, we are at the crux of that shift, this year, next year. So it's, there's just no predicting what's happening. And there's Uranus is so activated. And this month, particularly, and you and I were talking before we got on the call about Jupiter and Mars in the morning sky. I have not seen them. This is like I'm living in a rainforest surrounded by mountains and trees, and in the mornings it's always foggy and misty. It's all very romantic, but I was out last night at 1 a.m. The sky was clear. It was great. So between the two of us, we've got the whole night sky there. But um,
Well, my viewing of them was at 3 a.m. So that wasn't, I mean, it was the morning, but
I just could have stayed up another couple hours and it would have been great.
maybe.
But I didn't want to be asleep during this interview. So, in that I have Uranus and Jupiter conjunct in my natal chart in a T-square to everything, which is another thing that this paradigm has taught me. I was just a few years ago in 2019, after I've been studying all these years, we were doing this class on Uranus, and I looked like the shell shocked after it. And I just said to this woman, but I just don't feel that. I just don't feel that weird. I just feel like I've led this conventional life. And the woman looked at me and she says, Silvianne, you live in a van. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I guess. So in this way that I believe I'm on the forefront right now, and to say it's okay to be weird, to own that eccentricity. I think in this culture we become it's just, we're all so afraid of making a mistake, of not being loved. And it's like, yeah, we gotta, like you said, we're supported by the ancestors, by the guides, spirits, the energies that are coming through. We couldn't have been this 100 years ago or even 10 years ago. But now we're getting the support, whatever it is, and yeah, not everybody has Uranus and Jupiter all over their chart, but right now we're in a Uranian time. So whatever that's going to activate for you, go with it, because this is, as the old world deconstructs and we're rebuilding the new one, we need to be building it on a different basis. So And that's coming from inside each of our souls, not the useless leaders out there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with what every word you're saying there, Silvianne. That is beautiful and yeah, just true, I'd say. Finally, where can people find you? I know you are offering astrology readings to people, and of course, you do have an astrologer's listing on the TOTAMS website. So if people want to find Silvianne or any other of the TOTAMS certified astrologers, you go to our website, turningoftheages.com. And they are under offerings, which is the second tab from the left, you will find in the menu certified astrologers. And there they are all listed, and you can find Silvianne there as well, with email and any other contact information. But do you have any other avenue how people, or how you would like to be contacted?
I have an Instagram account that's under Cosmic Caravanserai.
Yes.
Um, And right now it's, I do have Taurus on the midheaven and a Taurus 1 degree Taurus sun. So there's a lot of pictures of my beautiful cat and beautiful cups of chai. But I've been really working on, I've been contemplating, I'm going to go public here to commit to doing a weekly post where I did this when I was sick in the desert with COVID in March of 2020, but that's a whole nother story. Where my whole life was dedicated to healing, and to getting closer to spirit as part of that process. But I was doing then, I will just kind of channel in. I would just like do an oracle card reading for the collective as well as myself for the day, and just post it on my Instagram account. And so whatever came channeled through me, because really that's the irony of it. I have this active Aries brain, and Aries moon. So Aries mind. But when I'm actually in all that Gemini in my chart, and I love to gather information and study everything to the hilt. But when it comes to the writing, it's why the writing is such a challenge to me in a way, is I really have to use all that and sit in stillness to feel into what it is I'm trying to put into words. So that is again my
Beautiful.
so that's, I'm hoping, so I will start that. Now that I've said it, and all of you might go and look, I'm going to have to do it. So that's
I will
good.
hold you accountable to that by
Okay.
posting the link to not only your astrologer's listing on our website, but also to your Instagram into the description box below this video. So now that sounds all so delicious and yummy. I can't thank you enough for sharing this time with me. And I really hope that beyond me, this inspires everyone who's watching this, and that, people do get in touch with you, book readings, or just start a conversation of some kind. I think that's always appreciated. And so thank you so much, Silvianne. Is there any final, anything you would like to say or add?
Just that conversation piece, we do have a community forum and a members forum on the website, and they're so underutilized. I mean, here we are, I'm happy to engage with people in that forum, and to get that conversation going about whatever, because I love this, whether you want to come and get a reading from me or not, those of you who are not already connected with the school, just there's so much available for really no or reasonable cost. And it is just such a life-giving paradigm that could be combined with whatever it is you do in life. You don't have to become an astrologer to
Oh,
get
absolutely.
something.
I know that's wonderful that you're mentioning that the members forum is for TOTAMS members exclusive, but the community forum is really free and open to anyone. And as for the interaction there, I just tagged you there in a post, so go and look it up yourself today.
I will.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speak to you again very soon, behind the scenes, as colleagues, as friends, and it's always such a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you, and bye, and thanks to everyone who is possibly ever watching this.